right, on the show now is the Baltic Gladiator, Modestas Bukauskas, who had a big win over Lee Chadwick. Modestas, how are you?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, mate.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And you got to be pleased with a win, especially over a tough, durable veteran like Lee Chadwick getting a UD win. I have to imagine you're feeling pretty good, especially after that year layoff right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been, 14 months out of the cage. There's a lot of questions for everyone, and from I know what my skill set is, but then obviously you need to find your feet back into the cage. Get yourself back out there, get yourself putting your moves back in, and obviously most importantly to get the win. Lee Chadwick, obviously a very good opponent. Very experienced opponent. Heavy grappler. He's beaten some top names. He's 3-3 in Bellator. He's just won in the PFL as well. We actually had a chat afterwards as well. Like I say, top fella. And yeah, no, it was a good win against a credible opponent. He's ranked within the top 80 in the world, along with myself. So it's not like I had a sort of a tune-up fight on my
Right.
fight back. So I'm glad that I got the win against a good guy.
Did you have a specific game plan going in against Lee?
Yeah, so obviously we wanted to keep it more at range. Obviously we knew he had heavy hands and good grappling. So really it was kind of just to keep it at range. We wanted to switch stances to confuse him. We didn't want to throw too many kicks just because of his grappling pedigree. But again, these are all things just more for the line of like, listen, we need to get the win. We need to get our foot back in the door. Like I say, we'll start throwing out more crazy things as now the confidence is building. Everything is sort of building up. But we had to go in there and do the job, and that's what we did.
In fight adjustments, I always find it interesting to talk to fighters post fight and listen to what their coaches say in the corner. What were you being told throughout the fight?
So just to keep doing what I was doing, just to start off with the hands, don't throw really too many kicks at the beginning. I mean, I started opening up with the leg kicks because even my coach, Danny, and my dad both said, he's going to be open for leg kicks. I don't need to worry about those too much. But yeah, to start off boxing and then start adding in my flavor and like, kind of stuff later on. I kind of kept it more in the boxing range. We didn't really plan to want to grapple too much with him. However, I did feel that the takedown would have been there had I gone for it. So yeah, it was just to keep the long range shots. There's no point getting into a brawl with a guy with heavy hands. Again, with your first fight back, when you need to find your feet, find your range, and stuff like that. And it's good for me also to show not only for myself but for everyone else that I can fight both stances pretty comfortably, and that was one of the things I was working on quite heavily. When I injured my knee.
Right. Oh, and that kind of leads into a question I wanted to ask you. Did you feel, was there any apprehension in any movement or any things that you did in the fight? Obviously after that gruesome knee injury against Roundtree.
I mean, I still managed to pull off the backflip at the end, so everything's absolutely fine. I didn't feel any problems with it. I've been sparring with heavy low kicks and stuff like that for a while now. It's literally the strongest it's ever been. And I've got to give massive credit. The UFC does take care of its athletes. They covered the operation and got the best doctors on it. So they literally, and I had a really good physio as well. My physio, Leanne, I've known her for the longest time now. She did a heck of a job in terms of getting me the appropriate steps leading forward. I mean, realistically, I was ready to go by like May of this year. It's only just the fact that through negotiations or whatever, we only managed to get a fight in November. But I was ready since May. But I am glad that we took more time, and now the leg, it feels absolutely normal. And even the commentators on the fight even said, they were saying, "Oh, it doesn't look like there's any issues," and there isn't. I feel 100%.
That's great to hear. A lot of fighters that have an injury like that, when they're away from the sport and they don't get a chance to, compete actively, they go through a little bit of a, maybe a dark time. How difficult was that for you, just from the mental side of things on your road to recovery?
Yeah, no, it was pretty horrible, to be fair. I knew that even though I was kind of hoping that the fight with Oleg Shachuk would have been in my favor, since that was a fight that most people thought I won, but I knew contractually I needed to come out with a good fight, and it's just sad because I really badly wanted that fight, but I had a bad injury, about 10 weeks out, and the knee wasn't in a good shape. But I'm like, listen, like this is a great opportunity. I've got to take. I've got to try and do all that I can to work around it. And it's just unfortunate that that particular shot just tipped it right over the edge, and then yeah, it's kind of, you're sitting in your room, you've got a massive cast on you. It was probably the most painful operation I've ever had. I remember the first thing I said when I woke up off the operation table, I was like, give me some damn morphine. I need to pump this through my blood right now. Like, because it was really painful. I was on a lot of medication, you kind of sit in your room trying to stay positive about the situation. You're trying to stay active with other things like, like YouTube and stuff like that. And it was a lot of depressing times. You're down a lot. Even though you got close people around you, it's still very difficult to get out mentally. That there's so many things I should have done in this fight. There's like how long is it going to take me to get back? I just want to get back now. Time's going, and I'm needing to recover from this. So yeah, it was a lot of sad. And then on top of that, getting cut from the UFC as well. When I got that phone call, obviously it was just, like I say, I felt like the world had just ended. I'm like, there's nothing worse now. So it was bad, but I was very fortunate that, like I say, everything was step by step, slowly getting better. I went through some hard times, like mentally. I kind of almost lost myself a little bit, like even just the way I was thinking and the way I was acting. But slowly as time went on and I started seeing improvements, you start seeing shades of Modestas coming out again. The Baltic Gladiator full on, slowly coming through as the times were going. So yeah, it was horrible, but in a way, I'm very thankful at the same time, because the lessons learned are invaluable. And I've learned a lot of things, not only inside the cage but outside of the cage as well. So and it's helped me to improve my skill sets in so many different ways, even through the rehab process. So the journey has been incredible, and yeah, it makes for one hell of a better story now than if everything would have just went plain sailing.
Sure. Yeah. No, no, very well said. I want to get to the UFC stuff here in a second, but first I want to transition back to Cage Warriors. It's a promotion that you know pretty well, right? What was it like to be there, to feel the energy of the fans in the venue on fight night?
Do you know what did you know what, this was actually the first fight since like 2020 that I've had with no, since 2019, since I've had with like a big crowd. So that was one thing in itself that I thought was amazing. I instantly felt, the energy of the crowd, and seeing my people in the crowd and everything. Like, I kind of eyeballing people as I was stepping in there. It was amazing. Cage Warriors have definitely stepped their game up massively. This is why now they're one of the main. They have truly solidified themselves as one of the main European promotions, probably one of the main promotions in the world, just by the way that they run things. Back when I was there, it's like it was good, but it was kind of like nowhere near the level that they are at now. So they've stepped up massively, and yeah, obviously familiar territory. Things are. It's a little bit weird because obviously UFC is then again another step ahead of all of that. So obviously they're on a completely different level to all the every other promotion. So that was a bit of a change, but in a way, it's still, like I say, it kind of felt like home. It's the same venue that I fought at a couple of times before, so it was like home to me. It was nice to fight in front of my hometown crowd, and yeah, man, like I just embraced the moment fully. I embraced my music, the walkout and everything. I embraced it to the full extent.
So I was interviewing a top Bellator prospect the other day, and he's a guy who's undefeated, who you really could potentially see in the UFC one day. And I was asking him, are you going to be satisfied if you never fight in the UFC, if you win Bellator gold and you just stay there for a while? Because the UFC is the pinnacle, like you just said, right? They're just on a different level than any other promotion. So my question for you is, do you feel like if you don't get back into the UFC that you're going to be happy with the way the rest of your career unfolds, or is that where you're laser focused at? You want to get back to the big show?
Obviously, it's no, it's no thing that obviously I want to. It's no surprise, sorry, that I want to be back in the UFC. It's the pinnacle. It's the cream of the crop. When you've been treated so well from that promotion, and the way that they run things, you just want to get back onto that same path, And look, I'm still very young, I'm only 28. I turned 29 in February, but I'm relatively young, especially for the light heavyweight division, and for the guys that are coming up in on the scene at light heavyweight also. So I can definitely have like a really good stab at it, and I know that with a couple of wins, that definitely it should be in our sights. But look, at the end of the day, in this whole fight game, you got to take things as they come. So number one, the route that we want to go is the UFC, and then after that, let's say things don't work out, then we'll figure out something to do from there. But of course, my heart is to want to get back to the UFC, and obviously that was one of the main reasons for coming back to Cage Warriors, because that's the best route to get back there. So yeah, man, like I say, my heart's with them. So obviously I want to get back there, but that by no means shuts out any of the other options, depending on what obviously happens in the future.
Do you think it's more a certain number of wins you have to get back to the UFC, or is it the quality of opponent that you're going to have to face?
Who knows, mate? Who knows? Like I say, this is all kind of up in the air for me. I really don't know. Uh, I put on a performance, just a clear unanimous decision victory. Obviously you want to come out with finishes and going all guns blazing, but I think I've definitely shown people that the knee is not an issue anymore. Like that was one of the probably the main things as well, to kind of show everyone is like, listen, money's absolutely fine. We're good to go. There's absolutely no issues here. I think that was the main concern. Because I had many people messaging me telling me, "Oh, this guy's career's over." I'm like, "What do you mean this career's over? I've been, doing all sorts of things." So, yeah, I kind of just expect that I've already beaten a high level guy now. Like I say, from one fight back, I've just beaten a guy unanimously that's been ranked in the top in Europe and in the world. So yeah, I just got to keep racking up those wins. Who knows? It kind of just, like I say, depends how they get swayed. But of course, I'm on their radar. So now it's just a case of, okay, whatever it takes, I will take the road to it. Whatever the path may be, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, I'll do whatever it takes to get back there.
What's the weight cut for you like these days? Is it still pretty manageable, or are you a little heavier?
Yeah, I am a little bit heavier. Um, I kind of, do you know what? It's mad because like everything like diet wise is really good. I'm always like in really good shape. Not so much after the fight. I had a couple of days of just literally eating everything and anything in sight, which is obviously I did a bit of a paddy pimlet for like the next couple of days after the fight, but I stay generally around the weight class that I need to be. I don't get too heavy, mate. Before I used to blow up massively. I used to see pictures of myself and I'm like, everything just looks like wider and like kind of like, I don't know, just like blown up, like a balloon blowing up, and it's like I've managed to stay a little bit more like kind of cut most of the time. So yeah, I mean it wasn't that hard. I still had to cut some weight, but yeah, I woke up at 206, and then by the time I got to the arena for the weigh in, I was 201, and then I actually had to sip some water to get the weight back on. So yeah, it's not an issue, but definitely middleweight is too far. Like that is a question. I know that's a question that will prop up, but that is like almost too far out of reach. It's like I'm already lean and drawn out at that. So to get down to middleweight would be a freaking insanity.
So when you're in full Patty Pimblett mode and you're just eating pizza and drinking whatever you want, like what's the heaviest you've ever been?
Mate, I don't know. I swear to God, I must have been at least 245. That's like me at like my biggest. And that's like literally, huh, for me, I've got a bigger sweet tooth. Like I'm not much of like a guy who eats like, loads of burgers and stuff like that, even though I can put those down as well. Don't, there's nothing wrong about that. But when it comes to like food, I just smash cakes and sweets. I don't know. I'm pretty surprised I haven't got diabetes yet. Like it's really bad. But yeah, 245 is probably the worst I've gotten.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate you talking about that a little bit because a lot of fighters they don't even want to touch it. They're like, yeah, I don't know. This next one. I I got to get a couple fight picks from you because this weekend there's a massive fight: Israel Adesanya,
Mm.
Alex Pereira, and then a month later you have Glover Teixeira and Yuri in that rematch for the light heavyweight title. I just want to know who you think are going to win those two fights specifically.
Oh yeah, it's very difficult ones to sort of predict. But I do, you know, as much as Pereira is extremely explosive, and obviously he's knocked him out before, I do think Adesanya has the experience factor on his side. So I do think Adesanya will retain his belt. And for the Prohaska and Teixeira fight, I mean, like Teixeira did very well in the pocket. It just depends if Prohaska can fix those particular things, and especially with the grappling and everything. You know, Prohaska being younger and you know more explosive, I do think Prohaska will take the win there as well.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I can't wait for both of those fights. They're going to be absolute bangers. Now, last question for me: time frame of your next fight. When is the perfect time frame for you to jump back in?
Well, I know that they have the New Year's Eve. They've got a special card coming up. You know, Team Europe v Team USA, and I've said it in interviews post fight. You know, that would what a way to cap off the year. Then you know, with the light heavyweight title shot on a Team USA v Team Europe card, and that'll be a good way to like really solidify myself as one of the best in the world. You know, and it was a belt that I vacated. I never lost. It hasn't been won since. And you know, now I've like I say, I've just beaten a top credible guy. You know, so I should be having that title shot next. And I don't think anyone has vacated it, come back and won it again. So, you know, why not make some history here, you know? So, and it'll be an epic card, you know what I mean? Like for Team Europe, you need all the best guys within that roster. And obviously, I'm one of those guys. So, yeah, I think that'll be a great time to have my next fight.
Very good. Well, absolute pleasure interviewing you for the first time, my man. Before we do sign off, I want to give you the floor. Please tell people where they can follow you on social media. If you have anyone to thank, any sponsors, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, mate. So MOD, I need to find a way how to change my Instagram handle, but I'll figure out. It's but for the time being, it's MODYB 24, and then on Twitter it's at Baltic Gladiator. Facebook is just my full name, but no one even wants to really spell that. That's a bit too long. And to be honest, I've actually got quite a lot of people to thank. In all fairness, obviously we've got BST Academy with Danny and Raymond, and then obviously my dad, like you know the main man, always in my corner, always helping me with everything, getting me through all the hard times. We've got Aria. I can't even pronounce his surname, but at Pure Jiu Jitsu, he's helped me out a lot with my ground game. Same with Hodger Gracie Academy. Same with Ed Ingermels at Institute of Grappling. Also, Prometheus helped a lot out with the wrestling. There's a lot of people as well that kind of behind the scenes. Like I'll only be mentioning names, but they've helped me out a lot in terms of sponsorship, in terms of medicals and stuff like that. But Sheetal and Jit, I've got to mention them. I've got to mention Azam Jaffrey as well. I've got to mention Denison Sutherland, always helping me out big time. There's a lot of people that have kind of, and I apologize if I kind of forget anyone, but honestly, there's been a Paul Burgess as well, massive help. He's actually the first guy that helped me whenever I was doing my weight cut to middleweight to make it a good weight cut. So I got to thank him as well. He's been a massive help, and just everyone, you know, Leanne with the physiotherapy, Fighter Shop UK, my guys sorting me out with the teas, and just always helping me out, Lithuanian brother, with whatever I need. Yeah, now we've got a strong stable of guys. I've got to thank obviously as well Will Curry, my main training partner, did help me out with Fight Week as well. Simeon Powell, Luke Trainer, Bertie Oaks as well. Yeah, I think that will cover all of it. If I missed anyone out, I apologize. But yeah, we've got a great team, strong support, and it's going to help me a lot in the future.